Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to JP Broadcasting, and welcome in to the first round of the next season of the J2iCS Sprint Series here out at Interlagos for round number 1 here tonight, sponsored by East Action Sports. For the best place for you to find some absolutely incredible stuff. East Action Sports is proud to support riders on and off the track. If you need motorcycle parts, accessories, or riding gear, we appreciate you supporting our family-owned business. Use code J2iCS for 10% off your next order. Tonight, I'm your commentator, Hamish, Munro, joined once again besides James Parfitt. James, tonight a massive round. You're very, very sleepy. You're very, very tired at such a late hour for you, but some phenomenal action in some Dallara F3 cars and Interlagos is going to wake you up very, very quickly. And I suspect across these two races tonight, we are going to be in for some absolute magic.
Yeah, we are. Interlagos is my favourite circuit of all time. There you go. That tells you how exciting it's going to be. I don't like any others. Don't even go there.
Fair choice. It's a fair choice. It's a classic and it's iconic. So very fair choice.
It is, and I absolutely adore it. So I think it's going to be an absolute banger. Sector, don't forget, you've said it now in YouTube chat as well. $5 says T1 is a graveyard. I said, okay, if Turn 1 isn't a graveyard, I expect you to donate $5. So there you go. He's got to suck that one up, unfortunately, on that one. I can only read out a bit of his reply, but he says, I better hop into Discord and talk some races. So there we go. But no, I think this should be an absolute banger. We've got two races, of course, 20 minutes sprint and then a 40-minute feature. What more can we look out for? It's going to be fast and manic in the first one and a little bit more tactical in the second one.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, obviously the name is in a sprint. You are pushing as hard as early as possible to try and make up positions to then better yourself into race 2 in the feature. Of course, feature's worth more points. It's a longer race, of course. Sprint's only worth 14 for the win, but for the feature, you're getting yourself crucial 35 points next to your name. There are points available for fastest lap and for the pole award as well, leading into the sprint race to begin with. So it's going to be a wild one. I mean, this series though, James, it's separated between sprint and then enduro, sprint and then enduro, and the way that those switch up week in and week out is then going to determine, who are the real major players in this series, who is going to be fighting for this championship throughout this season amongst these bunch of friends out of the US and Canada. So it's going to be quite an interesting season, a great place to start the season at Interlagos. I always feel in F1, if you're not starting in Interlagos, they should be finishing at Interlagos. I think this is a great way for them to start the series and to get the ball rolling incredibly quickly it's a track that will really separate the men from the boys, and I think it's going to be one that will challenge drivers. It's a classic Grand Prix style circuit that suits these cars, and it offers some great battling opportunities as well. So across both races, we're going to be in for an absolute treat.
Yeah, I think you're right. And this is the thing. They've changed up cars this year as well, this season. They were Super Formula Lights last season. Now they've gone to F3. It was GT4s last season, and now they've gone to GTPs. So massive difference in pace.
Massive difference, yeah. They've downgraded the SFL down to the F3, which it's just a little bit less grippy, a little bit less aero, similar power. But for the jump from the GT4 to the GTP, that's a big one.
Yeah.
That's a pretty massive change. But if they're willing to change cars season upon season, or year upon year, whatever it is, it opens up so many opportunities with different car types in the open wheel and the endurance space for them to use. They could move from GTP to LMP3 or LMP2, whatever it is. And for the open wheel side of things, they might go to the Formula Renault next season or something else possibly as well. And it really changes up the dynamic of racing whilst giving drivers the opportunity to race in different car types that they may not have actually previously thought of driving as well, which I think I'm all for. As a broadcaster, as a series runner, I'm all for those opportunities for drivers to sink their teeth into something new that they've never driven before, something old that they've never driven before, or something in between as well.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think this is where it really switches it up. And I think for people, they've got to go out there and give it a go and learn the cars that they're in. The F3s are great. I think they were one of the widely used open wheelers before the Super Formula Lights come out, and then of course everybody switched over to that. What these guys have done is decided to go the other way. They've gone from one backwards to another. As you say, GT4 to GTP for the endurance. Well, we're gonna have
They've
to.
they've jumped the cart before the horse in that sense, haven't they? Because the natural
Yep.
progression is GT4 through GT3, LMP3, LMP2, GTP. They've gone from one end of the spectrum to the other. Like they, the open wheelers, they've literally gone from what is the upgraded version of, or the downgrade of the newer version, SFL to F3. But yeah, like that's a big jump and a big pace discrepancy and a big learning curve to go from GT4 to GTP. We've spoken many times about how drivers across many broadcasts, how drivers should follow the program of the progression of running through the car classes to get used to each one, because everyone, it teaches you it's something new, and then that gets you prepared for the next car.
Yeah.
GT4 to GTP, that's like you are learning everything at once, having to go into that car for the first time.
And you've gone from a car that tops out around about 150 to one that goes up to about 190. So, there's a lot to learn, and I think that these guys are going to be able to do it. We are into qualifying, guys. We're just going to cover the last 5-10 minutes of qualifying. We've got about 3 minutes to go, and Squilliam at the moment, 128.701 is top. And people in behind that, of course, you've got Notovin, Bozak, McKinsey, Wallace, Winecki, Eat My Dust, Beaver, Urko, Nicolator, Captain NC, Maya, DC, Biker Pilot, Yamega, Aimerman, Schwab, Bar South, Bongos, Pebble, McKinney, and Kasuda. So, welcome in. This, if you haven't been here before, they do use their Discord names as their names in iRacing. So, yeah, be aware you're going to have names like that all season long for both series. It should be a good one. And I think it's going to be very, very interesting indeed. Notovan has got a purple, actually, in sectors. Where is he? 1, 2, sector 4. Before he goes over the line, is he going to make an improvement? 128.997, 128.902. Did improve, didn't go pole. So unfortunately for Notovin, no pole this time around. But I think there's lots of different challenges for this season and lots of different tracks that they've got to get used to. And I think that could be a defining point going from the F3 to the GTP if they're taking part in both series.
Yeah, and I think as well, actually knowing that the GT3 or the GTP and the F3, you might think they have similar characteristics. Obviously, high downforce, fairly quick, but the GTP is a whole other beast compared to the F3. You will learn certain things driving the F3 and also in the GTP that you can apply to the other car, but I think it's going to be tough actually having to almost get used to 2 cars at once as you are practicing week on and week out, because obviously it swaps every single week. They go from one car to the other, back to the other, back to the other, etc. And that's going to be a tough task in itself for these drivers. And it's hard enough to learn one car and get used to one car for a whole season, but to have to get used to 2 cars for a whole season in 2 completely different race types and race formats, that's one thing that's going to test drivers. And I think that's one thing that could really, again, separate the men from the boys. But I think as well, those drivers who maybe shine more so than others in one car, well, I think they'll still be the cream of the crop at the end of the day. Because if we have drivers who dominate in the F3 and do relatively well in the GTP or vice versa, they're going to be the drivers that will be challenging for the title. They're going to be the drivers who will be, becoming the names on our lips more often than not, James, because they're going to be ones who are at the top of the points list at the end of the season.
Yeah, exactly. The only good thing is, I've cover multiple different series, and I cover one that does a Nordschleifer, and it does different variations of Nords each week, and they do different cars each week. So they end up, I think it's like a 12-week calendar, and every car is different. And I do mean literally different. They go from GT4s to SR8s to GTPs. These guys have got 2, but it's whether or not they're able to put the time and practice into both that's going to really show how far up they're going to get. But, Heat 1 is coming up now. Let's get this underway. Grid's on the screen.
So the starting grid for tonight's race, for race number 1 this evening, around 1, Squilliam will start pole position ahead of Notovin in P2 on the front row. Bozak and Logan McKenzie will then make up the top 4 positions, with Wallace and Wiwanake on the 3rd row. Eat My Dust and Urko will then be on the 4th row of the grid, with Beaver and Nicolator making up your top 10. Captain CK and Jace Meyer will then be the P11 and P12, with an all-Canadian 7th row of the grid of DC and Biker Pilot. Gavin Aimerman and Yomega will then be P15 and P16, with Ryan Schwab, Bar South 22 for the top 18. Bongos and Pebble for your top 20. And then James McKinney and Matthew Kasuda will make up our top 22 cars on the grid this evening. But James, I'm excited because Interlagos, open wheelers, get me here any day of the week. This is going to be intense. It's going to be insane. The one thing, little caveat that we're not going to get with the F3s, we will never get rain. But those races with the GTPs, we could get that at some point. That could also spice up the season too. So we do know that we'll always have dry running in F3s. We know that because the car just does not have rain. But it means it's going to come down to the drivers and how used they are to the circuit, and the weather is not going to have a part to play in that.
It's a shame, isn't it? I'd love to see that bit. You know what I mean?
A little bit of a drizzle in Interlagos never hurt anyone, did it?
No, exactly. Especially around the backside of the circuit. Going down the hill from Mugello down to Juncal and then just watch him go off like an aquaplaning boat. You know what
pool
I mean?
that ends up down there is ridiculous.
See that as well. That would be absolutely quality. But you've got 47 degrees track temperature at the moment. And you can see it is dry. No chance of rain, as we've just discussed on that one. But going to get the grid up and running. Then we'll get the lights going. And then we'll be underway. So hold on to your hats, ladies and gentlemen. And Sector 9, well, let's hold on to your wallet.
Yeah, hold on to your wallet as best as you can. So we will just await the green flag as we're underway at Interlagos. Squilliam gets a great start down towards turn 1, but it's an absolute scramble for position in the minors as they're almost 3 wide for P2 into turn number 1 as well. They scramble for position as they run through the first couple of corners. Need to be cautious and careful, James, that they don't get interlocked with each other in these open wheelers because it could cause pure chaos and agony for a heap of drivers. They've made it through nice and clean this time by, though, as they then head down towards turn 3, which you need to be cautious and careful. Cold tyres, cold brakes, and a car's round off the exit of turn 1, and it's a massive stack as well with a multitude of cars getting caught up in that one. Couple of fast repairs are going to be needed to fix these cars on track, and it's a graveyard down there, James, an absolute graveyard.
It is absolutely. Sector, you said it's turn 1. Well, it definitely was not turn 1. It was turn 5, and we'll get the replay up now. And unfortunately for Bozak, I think he just gets caught out here. And then he ends up being pushed out. Bozak on the outside, big send from the inside. And then just watch everybody else. Check up, stack up, check up. There's a car on his head.
Oh, my God.
Who actually is on his head? That's going to be an interesting one.
Yeah. Was it Cat Daddy Uanake? It looks like it might have been. So that was actually a locked brake from the car ahead that caused that initial incident.
Oh, there he goes.
Oh, yeah. So it was whoever hit Wuanake that ended up on their roof, on their intake.
Oh, Urko.
Oh, Urko, yeah. Oh, my God, that is a wild ride.
Yep. Good job he's not in VR.
No, very good job he's not in VR. That would be something you would not want to have happen. But Squilliam has rocketed away at the front of the field. You can see the gap that has already started to build between him and P2. It's already down to 1.4 seconds at the moment, but we have legitimately, James, have half the field in the pit lane at the moment trying to fix their car. We went from 22 to 12 cars on track. That was ballistic.
10 cars involved in a stack up that you normally see at Daytona, you know what I mean, in NASCAR. Yeah. But we've got them here instead at Interlagos, and unfortunately, well, some of these guys have had to tow. Some of them have actually managed to get it back to pit lane. Who had turn 5 said sector 9? None of you did. So there we go. I'll give you race 2 and then we'll go from there after. But at the moment, yeah, they're now very spread out. That big drama has caused mass spread across the field. You can see 1.8 from Squilliam to Notovin. Logan McKenzie not too far behind at the moment, but Beaver is probably closer to him than he is to McKenzie. Captain CK is one of the biggest gainers, gained 6 places. McKinney and Kasuda have gained 20 places between them, both gaining 10 each off the start. Oh no, marbles.
Marbles, I was about to say make it 21 because McKinney just made it 11, but Kasuda, luckily for him, he's got 10 seconds behind him to Nicolator, who's been through the lane here, James, so he has got a bit of breathing space for him now. But now the trouble is, for some drivers, they're going to go a lap down. But now it's also going to come down to how hard can you push, how much can you focus to try and close these gaps that have now naturally been built from cars getting taken out, cars that were further back gaining positions, and cars up ahead staying clean as well. So it's really going to come down to how hard you can push forward, or if you're willing just to actually maintain your position, because it would mean a better starting position for race 2 comparatively to race 1. So that could really work out for you. But Eat My Dust at the moment, P7 on the road. We saw, I'm not sure if it was him or if there's another one of them, that actually locked up into turn 5, and that's what caused the, I'd say, initial chaos, but actually probably saved the other car from getting taken out amongst the absolute nuclear explosion down there that took out about half the field.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that was not obliging by the fact that their spotter would have been shouting yellow flag, yellow flag, yellow flag, because I'm not being rude. They all had a good enough chance to try and see that. Unfortunately, they didn't. But Eat My Dust, yeah, you dived for Bozak at the beginning, and unfortunately that kind of was the catalyst that went and blew everything up. And then before you know it, we've got quite a few out off track. So Bozak was the first, DC was off, Winecki was off, Urko went upside down, James Meyer was involved in that, Biker Pilot, Ryan Schwab was all involved, Pebbles crashed, Bongos crashed. So, you know, Nicolator, he crashed as well. So, after that, 12 drivers decided to terminate themselves.
Yeah, and good job for them, though. They're actually still going. They've come back out on track. They've taken their fast repair, and they're pushing on to the end of this race, because I suppose with 15 minutes still to go in this race, anything can happen. Anyone can make a mistake. Anyone can end up off track. Yes, the field's not as close as what they once were at the start of the race, so you're not going to get that many drivers losing themselves so quickly again. But again, you can just pick off some positions, but also get some solid points for yourself just by, even getting 1 or 2 more spots from natural digression of other cars. But this battle here between Bozak and DC down the straight, they look to fight this out as hard as possible. Up the inside at turn 5. See, he's just shown Eat My Dust how to do it and how not to take out a car at turn 5, it seems. He wanted that as a show of not only respect, but a real shiner back on Eat My Dust's car.
Yeah, I don't, you say that too soon.
He ran it wide.
Bozak's up the side. This is going to be the place from... Oh, no, dude, you don't want to be out there. You don't want to be out there. There is no grip. Marbles all day. You can see the marbles developing. And this is... Oh, he's on the marbles as well. This is the only thing now as well, since that new particle model's come in and all the marbles stay on the racetrack and you can see them and they affect the way you drive, they affect the way you overtake. So many people. I've been to Interlagos 3 times, I think, this week alone, and so many people on that middle section cannot get it right. Running out of 5, up through 6, 7, 8 and 9. Marbles all day. The racing line goes down to 1. Person on the outside can't get the grip. Doesn't end up going anywhere, or, to be honest with you now, Hamish, they do end up going round quite a lot.
They do indeed, and that's, again, we mentioned we're not getting rain this afternoon or this evening, of course, but when you do get rain here, of course, with that marble build up on the outside of the road, you're wanting to run the go-kart line, the outside line, and that then poses a challenge in itself, because you're forced to choose. Do you go on the wet little rubber marbles that are on the road, or do you go through the pools of water on the inside of the track as well? It's a real balancing act. They've got a benefit here that there is a regular line that they can run. There's no water, there's no marbles there. If there's marbles brought back on track onto the regular racing line, and then it's pretty much, you've got to choose which way do you send it and hope for the best. You kind of just hang on for dear life. But these guys are looking to push. But Eat My Dust in that chrome rainbow machine has had a traverse off track. Might need to get some lawnmower blades on the bottom of that car just to cut some grass for the groundskeeper, it seems. But luckily, the rejoin has not made it worse for wear. And in fact, he's come back on nice and clean and not taken anyone else out in the process. Yeah,
but he is stuck now behind Yamega, Blackbolt Wallace as well. So he's going to have to try again. You can see McKinney at the same time. Him and Bearself are side by side. I did think he was there. I was just waiting for him to come into the picture, and you can see McKinney just lost that position away. But for Yamega now, he's now got Eat My Dust behind him. What do? Do you fight? Do you think I'm going to go for it? Because technically they're both on the front row for race number 2, right? Top 8 reverse for the 40-minute. So they are both on that front row. So how hard do they battle? Or do they make a choice to say, actually, I'm not going to be battling But I will say one thing, Eat My Dusters look like he's just up for a battle full stop before, it doesn't matter where he is.
Yeah, he really wants to just get the fisticuffs out and have a main event level punch on with someone on track. And, you know, we love it when cars are not taken out in those battles. You know, obviously when you get tin tops, you can have door-to-door racing. In the open wheelers, well, it's not so much. These things break when you look at them wrong. And you can get some fantastic battles between them. Obviously, high downforce, you can get overtakes done on the outside. But then the question becomes, if these guys are on the front row, what side of the road do you want to be on leading into turn one? Do you want to be on the inside and possibly, if you can get it off the line good enough, have that inside line at turn one? Or do you want to be on the outside and then hope you get a good enough getaway that you can cut across back over onto that inside line? And that's maybe some of the decision-making these drivers are going to have to make as Eat My Dust gets the job done, moves it into P7. Yamega, now the provisional pole sitter for race number 2, as we are just under half, or just over halfway to go in this race. 10.5 minutes left in race number 1 for some crucial points. But for Squilliam, he looks to lock in 14 points for himself in P1. He's built that gap up now, James, to 2.6 seconds over Nodovan. Nodovan 1.3 ahead of Mackenzie. Mackenzie 3.2 over Beaver. Beaver 1.2 ahead, and so on until we get to this battle, which is actually the closest on track. These guys separated by only 1/10 of a second in the battle for the front row of race 2.
Yeah, and this is where you're going to try and pick up on some of the marbles that you can see. We'll go down there. You can see them on the right-hand side. They are literally awful. As soon as you go on them, you are in deep trouble. Oh, big lock up. There's more on the left there. You've got a single line. This one on the run down through Magello now coming into Junkao. You'll see him on the exit of Junkao. You've got to be really, really careful and get it hooked in. He can go right there. He can open up this corner so much more. Once you get, it's really weird at Interlagos with the way that they do the off tracks. But once you get past, let's jump on, no, let's not go Schwab. Wherever is number 12. Once you go Nicolator, once you go down through past the curb on the left-hand side, you can put the car to the left over that cobble like he is, and it opens it up, and that allows you to get the good rotations for the run up the hill. If you don't do that, you do end up being a little bit slower, as James McKinney is going to demonstrate something for us here, which is not good. Well, he doesn't go onto the cobbles on the outside. He's going to come in Junkao far too much, mate. Straight round.
Yeah, it was a bit too tight. So if he'd actually been out on that cobble, he probably could have carried that pace through the corner, but he was just that little bit too tight on entry, and that's what's caused that car to spin. And that's one of the toughest balancing acts of this car, is figuring out how you can best approach corners, because this thing will spin if you try and carry too much pace. It's different to the SFL. The SFL, you can carry more speed through corners. It's got that little bit more downforce. It's slightly less power than the F3 car does. But with the F3, you have to pick your lines to absolute perfection. Hit every single mark you can, because it is a rabid dog that you are trying to circuit as fast as possible. And again, James, you mentioned you have to use as much of the track as possible to carry that pace through corners. So down here, you want to use all that cobble as much as you can without getting the off track to carry the speed through the left-hander and get that run up the hill towards the start-finish line.
And that's the thing. You'll see a lot of drivers who know this circuit. They'll wait to the end of the curbing, then they'll pull to the right, and then they'll take a lot of the curbing on the inside. You can take quite a bit of that as long as you've got two wheels on the racetrack, and it's flat, so it's not exactly like it's going to bump you up in the air like we've seen at many other circuits with sausage curbs that stick up all over the place. You can take more. You can take more of the inside here. You can take more of the outside. You can get your wheels right out there. That would have given him a better exit for the run up through the Reda Raposta. So they've really got to get used to where you can and cannot take curbing. Again, take it on the inside here, but leave it well alone on the outside, because if you sneeze on the outside, you are in for an off track. You can go right over that, leave that, don't go any further than that, otherwise you're going to get an off track. So they are a little bit weird. It's a bit like the Red Bull ring, where 1 minute you go near it and you've got an off track, next minute you can go right over it and you don't touch it coming out of turn 7. So it's very weird, but I think that turn 5 is really the only main tricky point. Run it out too far, you will get the off track, but you can take loads on the entry. So we could go all where that black mark is, all where the rubber mark is, you can take, but you can't take any more of that. That's an off track.
Yeah, that's an off track, yeah. It's ironic you say the Red Bull Ring, James. It might be contentious, but the Red Bull Ring is actually my favorite circuit in the world. I love the Red Bull Ring. It's phenomenal. Creates great racing, and it's great to drive as well, especially when you get a full lap together. It's very similar to Interlagos. If you can get a perfect lap together around the Red Bull Ring or around Interlagos, you feel on top of the world when you cross the line and you see that time. You feel like you feel like prime Lewis Hamilton cutting laps around the circuit pretty much if you can get that perfect lap together.
Yeah, that's the thing, is just managing to get it right. You gotta leave the gap. Yeah, you got a rough exit out there, unfortunately for Amerman. But you are right. This is where we're going to see now how effective this drive's going to be. What's Amerman going to get down onto the run into turn number 5? He's on the right-hand side in that 58 brightly coloured machine, and the 101 sweeps through. That's an off-track. That's an off-track for the red car. They've got to be a little bit more careful with that. You can read them all day. That's the thing. I can literally tell you a story of where they're going to get an off-track when they start doing it round Interlagos. Been round it so many times, and it's just one of them that you've got to be on it all the time, and if you're not, you are in deep trouble. It does look like one of the people that is in deep trouble is Urko, unfortunately. Not quite sure what he got himself into, but whatever it is, he hasn't done himself any favours.
No, we'll see what's happened down at the infield. Oh, we caught some of that curb with the rear wheel, and that's just... Unfortunately, that's a trait of this car, those slow spins where you feel you just cannot catch it as soon as it starts to happen. Some of those rear-engine GT cars, very similar characteristic as well. And I think it more or less comes down to just low-grip rear engine. The engine decides it wants to come around and say hello. And this car is, well, it's known for it pretty much. The SFL, a little bit less because there's, again, a bit more downforce on it. So this car, though, it's an absolute beast. And it's been on the iRacing service for quite a long time. But this battle between Amerman and Yamega looks to become a bit of a triple threat when Bar South gets involved. And this is the battle for provisional pole position of the next race, James. We're 4.5 minutes to go, and Yamega will be defending this position for his absolute life, not just for the points that are on offer, but that opportunity to start pole in race 2. And if it blows up at turn 5 once again like it did this race, well, it could mean victory lane for him at the end of the night.
Yeah, and that's Winecki tucked in behind the back marker down in 19th behind Amerman. There's 11 seconds to Bar South. Oh, hold it. No, you didn't hold it.
Oh, no, he didn't hold it. No, there he goes. And Amerman sneaks on past. You've got a feel for Yamega. He's had a great run tonight, James, up 7 positions, but again, just lost that grip on the rear end. And these cars, once they go, there's no catching them. They've just gone. You cannot try and drift this car. It just does not let you do it. And that is one of the more difficult parts of racing the F3.
Yeah, I'm going to do something I don't normally do here, but you can see he starts losing it there. The car's now sliding. What he had to do was lift off the throttle and let it settle back down. He tried to keep the speed in, and unfortunately around he went. Eat My Dust and Amerman side by side, running down through into turn 1. Dust is just sitting really behind him now at this moment in time. He might be able to get him back going into 1. Amerman's made a defensive move to take the inside. Eat My Dust there, a little bit unsure what to do. Amerman gets a little bit slidey. This should give Eat My Dust a run from the center S's down into turn 5.
I think Eat My Dust has actually had an off-track, James, because he was nowhere near the front of Amerman when he got past Yamega. So Eat My Dust has definitely been off-track and actually then been drawn back into this battle with Amerman for P7 and P8 on the road. But running it wide for Amerman's not going to help him. Would that be far enough to maybe even cop a slowdown, James, at this part of the circuit as well?
No, he'll get an off-track, but the slowdown will kick out if he is like right. He's got to be out. You know what I mean? But here, but they'll get the off-track for it, definitely. But for Eat My Dust, I think he's causing himself more dramas than it's worth. But then again, it's round 1, race 1. I think we forget that, what has gone
on? Big one. What has happened with Kasuda and Bieber?
Oh, bro, where you going?
Okay, that's a send.
Oh. No. Oh, my God.
Oh, my God, that rejoin.
Oh my dearie me! I won't even go into the fact that
all you can do is laugh, James. At this point, that's all you can do. two and a half minutes to the end when this happens, and you're sending it at the inside at the second to last corner. Like, what is a relative? What is a relative?
Clearly, it's not on the screen for Matthew Kasuda. Unfortunately for him on that one, that was a little bit dramatic. But
I think, unfortunately, I think that also comes down to the fact that Kasuda's a rookie in the open wheeler class as well. So maybe that, I don't know about his sports car license, but I think that could just come down to rookie mistakes, unfortunately.
I think you might be right. It's best to do a league than it is to do officials, which doesn't sound right, but league racing is a lot better. But I think at the end of the day, learn. You know, we all, if you need tools, reach out to somebody, because you've got your spotter, you've got your rain slabs, you've got your SDK, you've got caps, whatever, your cappers or whatever it's called. They're all there to help you. You've even got the black box in game there at the same time. So, you know, use it.
And as of next season in iRacing, you won't even need race labs. It'll have all that in house. You'll have all those overlays that race labs and apps like that offer once we get into season 2 of iRacing for 2025. So use it to your advantage. Learn the spacing, learn how much time is between you and other cars, and that should stop possible accidents like that happening. But for Squilliam, he's got 1 lap to go here, James. He's led the entire race, has not dropped or gained any positions, and he looks to take the maximum 14 points here in race number 1 this evening, which will make him start in P8 on the road for race 2, where he is going to be in, we'll call it foreign territory, for the fact that he may step wrong at some point and find himself in a minefield.
This is where he now, but everybody from the top 5, Bob, Captain CK, Logan on our screen, not in there as well, and Squilliam, they've got to be sensible. You've got to go into race 2 and think, right, I've got 40 minutes. I can pick off 1 car per lap. That's it. That's all I need to move my way forward. And that's all they've got to do. I know from us up here in the booth, you know, we've both seen thousands of broadcasts and we've seen thousands of races, and we can sit there and say that. But to the people up there, no. But Squilliam heading to the line.
Yep, and he's had an incredible run to the line as well from the Wombmates team. Squilliam started on pole. He goes perfect, leads every lap to victory lane in race number 1 at Interlagos this evening. Nodovan will put it in P2 after starting on the front row of the grid. That's a great run from him. Logan McKenzie will make up your podium for race number 1. Captain CK will then looking to come across the line for P4. Black Bob Wallace, I should say, across the line in P5. And there's been an absolute blow up after the line between
I don't even
Bongos.
think they were on the last lap.
Oh, yeah, they were on the last lap. Oh my God.
Wow. Dude. What's going on?
You know what? This is technically historic racing at this point, James, because these are obviously retired cars. I would hate to know the repair bill if this happened in an actual Dallara F3 race at this point. Like, that would be hundreds of thousands of pounds or hundreds of thousands of dollars as DC comes across the line and make up your top 13. So a great run from Squilliam, a great run from the top 5 and the rest of the top 8 as well. Yamega has somehow made his way back into P8 position and has actually now found himself provisional pole for race 2. So even after that half spin, James, someone's obviously been caught out by something, and he's then managed to find his way back up into the pole position for the 40-minute feature.
Yeah, Erko's not had a good time in race number 1, unfortunately. He's had somewhat of a bit of a stinker. Bongos is not even, well, he ain't got a front or a rear, to be blatantly honest.
He's racing Formula Fords at this point.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's just, yeah, we ain't got anything. FF1600s all day for him, and there we go. He'll be an expert at that by the time he gets that, drags that thing back over. We are checking, says Mackenzie Roon in YouTube chat, who is Bananas and Sushi. Welcome in, bud. Hope you're right well. Bongos goes in and over the pit lane. He should, no, please come forward and cross the line so I can get the results. There we go. Thank you very much.
There we go.
All good. But Heat 1, very, very interesting. But the results on the screen.
Yep, as Squilliam took P1 on the road. I'm actually waiting for it to show up on the stream because I've now lost it, James. It's not on my OBS. So
Right. Then you got Squilliam in first place, Notvin in second, Logan McKenzie in third, Captain CK fourth, Blackbird Wallace in fifth. Then you got Eat My Dust, Gavin Amerman, Yamega, and Nick Bevo in your top 9. Then Nicolada rounds out 10, and Bozak, Bar South, DC, Jace Meyer, and James McKinney rounding out the top 15. Biker Pilot, Jason Renegi, Ryan Schwab, and Pebble round out 19. And then I believe there was a couple in behind that one at the same time. But there we go. We've got Squilliam in the booth for you, Hamish.
Squilliam, a great race for you. Started on pole in that one and then managed to find your way out of trouble and out of the minefield through turn 5 to then go on to take your first win of the season. What was it like? Because you obviously built a nice gap early on. What was the thought process throughout the race? Just trying to keep yourself nice and controlled. I know the F3 is a bit of a beast to hold on to. Were there any issues throughout the race that may have caught you out at some point, or was it just a straight run to the checkered?
At that point, like after I kind of built a gap, it was more just maintaining the tires. The track temperature was really hot. It was like 122, I think, when we started. And in this car, it honestly feels like you're on cold tires. It's that bad. So it's pretty sketchy. So I was just trying to get around the track in one piece and just kind of maintain that gap and not let him back into the draft.
Well, it was an exceptional run for yourself, of course. Thought process leading into race 2, of course, you're starting a little bit further back in the field. We know that there was a big blow up in the middle of the field in race 1. Is that then going to affect your strategy for this race going forward? Obviously, 40 minutes, a lot of laps to get some positions made up throughout this race. What's your plans going forward now into race 2?
Yeah, I mean, just based off pace alone, I think, like you said, it's a 40-minute race, so there's really no need to rush through anything as long as I can actually get passes done and get them done in a timely manner. First race of the season, so people are a little big-headed with moves, I guess, big egos out there wanting to get back at people last season and stuff sometimes. So I'm just gonna try to tiptoe through the first couple laps and just make sure I don't get into any trouble.
Well, we hope that you can move on and try and maybe claim yourself a second win of the night and take that round win for yourself as well. Best of luck in race 2. We look forward to seeing how you go.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. All right, next up we had our P2, which was, of course, Notvin. Notvin, P2 on the road for yourself in race number 1. Kind of the leader of the race there in Squilliam kind of ran away with it in the end. Were you thinking, oh, yeah, I'll try and push up the road, force my way up to the back of him, or was it smooth sailing for yourself, just trying to maintain that P2 and maintain some positive position or positive points for yourself, I should say, in race 1?
I kind of didn't know what I wanted to do, if I'm being honest. I knew I needed to finish second, so getting past Bod on lap 1 was really important. I tried to catch up back to Squilliam, but he was just a little bit too much faster.
And thought process for race 2, obviously, starting a little bit further back. Are you then just going to, Squilliam said he's kind of just going to take his time, try and work his way forward across the 40 minutes. Are you taking a similar mindset into this race as well?
Well, the past tells me it's really just going to be about surviving. I suspect we may have another incident going into turn 1, but we will see. But it'll just be about surviving. I find is these inverted 8 races and trying to get through the field. It's just you got to be really patient.
And just quickly before we let you go, just because I'm personally trying to collect Canadians and where they're from in broadcast. Are you from Alberta by the sound of your accent?
Yep.
Knew it. Oh, okay, Calgary or Edmonton?
I am North, so Edmonton.
Oh, brilliant. I'm an Edmonton fan too. Fantastic. All right, best of luck in race 2. We look forward to seeing how you go.
Thank you.
Thank you. I collect more and more Albertans from Canada, James. Week in and week out, I'm collecting them. So it's fantastic. That's now 3 over the last one in every single broadcast I've done now over the last 3 for JP Broadcasting. I have collected an Albertan to talk to. But
there's a 50-50 chance that you might come across an American or Canadian, Hamish, considering you're doing American or Canadian broadcasts, isn't it?
But it's not just that. It's knowing the Albertan dialect in the Canadian accent and knowing how they pronounce certain words. That is the key of collecting an Albertan from Canada. But no,
dear.
it's it's fun for me as an Edmonton fan. It means more people I can talk to about Edmonton, and any Calgary fans I can just give them, ha-has when they don't win a cup. But that's just me. But race 2, James, coming up in about 5 minutes' time. 40-minute racing. We've been in this position many times as broadcasters, watching drivers go from a 20-minute sprint, reverse, then top 8 or top 10 in some races, and all hell can break loose on that first lap. And after we saw a hell break loose on the regular qualifying for race 1, I think we are going to be in for quite possibly a nuclear warhead getting dropped on these drivers at turn 5 once again if they're not cautious and careful this time round.
I'm hoping that they always sit back and say, learn from your mistakes. Okay? So I'm hoping that these drivers have learned from their mistakes. So, and they don't end up doing the same thing twice, because, it's like first sign of madness if you keep repeating the process and getting the same result, right? If you got into race 1, dived up the inside and you crashed, the chances are if you're going to do the same thing in race number 2 on lap number 1, you are going to crash. And let's not forget, the race can't be won on the first lap, but it definitely can be lost. And that's the thing. They've got to remember that it can be lost and making sure that they complete it. I've got clearly more faith than Sector 9 has got, because he's just, said about being at race 2, turn number 1. But I think at the end of the day, they're going to learn. They have to learn, because being at the back, lap down, they can't.
Yeah, I think the reason that turn 5 is the more opportune time, we'll say, that we'll see carnage is, especially on lap 1, they're carrying more pace into turn 5 than they are into turn 1. Turn 1 is 100 meters up the road from the start line. Like it's a blink and you're there. Where with turn 5, you've got that whole run down the straight to get into the slipstream and decide if you're going to try and dive it up the inside. And that's where I think we're going to see carnage happening. We could very well see them get through turn 5 very cleanly. And if we do, well, then I think it's probably going to be in the middle part of the track that we could see some carnage, or down at turn 9, leading up back towards the start-finish line as well. So I think we've got, there's a lot of parts at play, a lot of moving parts in this as well. And as you mentioned, I think you've just got to have a little bit of patience, throw the ego out the window for 5 minutes, let the race warm up into its rhythm, and then that's when you start to attack. Because the natural progression of this race is going to be, we're going to have drivers pushing hard for the first maybe 15 minutes. The next 15 minutes, they're going to be in their rhythm, trying to get to their pit stop. And then the final 10 minutes of the race is when we're really going to get into the meat and potatoes of, where you're situated, who you're battling with, push on and make the checkered flag and try and make up those little extra points that you can towards the end of the race.
I agree. I think that is it. I 100% agree with you on that one. I think they've just got to be more sensible. Quick trivia question. Do you know that turn in front of you has a name? Do you know what it's called?
As in turn 1?
Nope, as in turn 15. Is?
Turn 15.
Do you know what turn...
Is that Glock?
14 and 15 is called.
Is it called Is That Glock?
Nope. It should be, yes, the conspiracy theories down in Juncal, but no, go on. Any ideas?
I'm not sure. I could not even hazard a guess, apart from maybe Center or Massa Corner, or Hamilton, maybe.
No, believe it or not, this corner name does not appear on regular track maps. It's not even on circuit info. But if you actually wiki Interlagos, there is a corner name at the top of the hill. Now, it loosely translates into English as the bleachers, and it's actually called Arquibancadas. And basically, why they call it the bleachers is because from where that position is there on your screen now, you can see right over the circuit. And being that bleachers is associated with nosebleed seats, which means the seats up in the air, that is why they've called it that. And you can actually see from where we are now, the corners just starts a little bit further back. You can actually see over the circuit and see them coming up the hill into the infield. So there you go, a bit of useless trivia that I've learned on my way at Interlagos.
No trivia is useless trivia, James. It'll come up in a pub quiz at some point, I'm sure.
I doubt
it's
it.
good to know. Well, it'd also be known as probably the spotters section as well, because you could see the entire track pretty much from that position. But I think even just experiencing this track in real life would be exceptional. No matter what racing's happening here, whether it's Stock Car Brazil, whether it's Junior Formulas, GTs, F1 as well, even motorcycle Grand Prix would be fantastic to see here. And I think it is a track that's just, it's known in infamy. A lot of people, myself included, believe this should be the final round on the F1 calendar every single year.
Agreed.
Because it just has so much more, not just history, but it has so much more pride about it than the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix does.
Absolutely. The only thing I'm really glad that everybody's staying away from is that janky chicane on the way out of Junção up the hill. That chicane it's a motorcycle circuit chicane, and it's atrocious. But grid's on your screen.
Yeah. And the starting grid for this race will be as follows. Yamega will start pole position ahead of Gavin Amerman, with Eat My Dust starting in P2 alongside Black Bob Wallace on your second row of the grid. Captain CK and Logan McKenzie will then make up your top 6, with Nodovan and Squilliam making up our reverse top 8 from race number 1, with Nick Beaver and Nicolator making up our top 10 on the grid. Then Bozak and Bar South 22 for your top 12. DC and Jace Meyer, your top 14 with James McKinney. Biker Pilot, Jason Wuanake, Ryan Schwab, Pebble, Matthew Kasuda, Bongos and Urko for your grid as the lights are going to go up. And we are underway with green flag running. It was an exceptional start from Eat My Dust off the line, who looks to take the lead before turn 1's even there. And he runs around the outside. But unfortunately for him, Amerman's had a great shot, and it's turn 1. And it's Eat My Dust. Amerman and Yomega have all blown it up through 1. So the over-unders has worked for Sector 9.
Eat My Dust is not learning. He has not learned anything. Give him credit, though, because it was Amerman.
He nearly would have had it. Yeah, if Amerman had not lost the rear, he would have pulled that off, to be fair. So, if he didn't come in with too many... he held the brakes. He shouldn't have actually held the brakes there. He should have just tried to power it across the grass.
Yeah, absolutely. Logan McKenzie gets 1.7 seconds out in front. Sector 9, I'll let you off. You've managed to hold on to $5. But I can tell you what. Oh, marbles. Marbles.
Absolute marbles. And Beaver and Captain CK, both of them are off the road as they continue fighting through. Ruanake, though, looking to fight his way forward. Wallace up to P3. He's got Nodovan in behind, as well as Bozak, Nicolator, DC, Jace Meyer as well. But Squilliam has already rocketed up to P2 on the road. He is only one position away from trying to claim a second win on the trot here for round number 1 at Interlagos. But McKenzie will try and defend that position like it's nobody's business. And he'll want to try and take a win here and a maximum worth of points for the feature race of 35 next to his name. But 32 next to Squilliam's name. That'd still be good enough for a round win at this point in P2.
Nodovan trying to go around the outside here at the moment. Is he going to make it through? He is. And a great job from Nodovan. That is Black Bob Wallace behind. He's got Night Racing teammate of Bozak in behind that. So it's going to be an attack on Black Bob at the moment for that rundown into turn 5. Marbles at Interlagos are the real deal. We've seen it, McKenzie. We saw it on Sunday. We've seen it here as well. And it is a real deal at Interlagos. Very, very tough on that intersection. Purely single file lines. If you go for it, you're either brave or incredibly crazy. But here we go. Wallace is trying to come back at him. Not making it through. Up through Ferradora into SA now. Wallace is going to have that inside line. He's going to be on the outside. Not of him. Be careful. Be careful. Oh, I think Wallace, he was just teetering on the edge of marbles and race circuit there. And I think that's the only thing that managed to save him.
I think it was indeed the only thing that could have saved him at that point as well. We are just under 3 minutes into this race, and Wallace and Nodovan battling hard here for P4 on the road as they fight their way further and further up. I don't know why it is classifying Kasuda in P1. I think the timing might be just a little bit off for him possibly, James, because it's not classifying McKenzie anywhere behind him, but it's one of those glitches, it seems. As we run up towards turn 1, Bozak wants the inside line on Wallace. Tries to follow his teammate Nodovan through here. Tucks it up the inside. Great job from Bozak. Covers the switchback from Wallace as well. And now both of those cars inside the top 4 as Nicolator is under pressure from DC as they look to battle up towards 5. Can DC set this up for an inside move? Under brakes as we rocket down towards the braking zone that was causing so much chaos in the last race as he tucks it through. DC looks to get the job done. They're still side by side at this point though. Nicolator does not want to give it up without a fight. Are they going to try and run side by side up the hill as well? Oh, you know they are. Nicolator not letting it go, and now it looks to become a three-way fight with Meyer involved too, as he tries to sneak up the inside of DC at the next few corners as well. Oh, this battle's starting to go off, James, but they've got to be careful of those marbles. If they're caught out on the outside line in the midfield, they could end up spun round and on the grass.
Yeah, absolutely. In through the right-hander they go now at the same time. It's going to be very, very difficult through Mijalo down into Junkao. And you can see DC, Nicolator, they're all pulling in Black Bob Wallace in front. You've got to make sure that you can't. But Wallace now, he's in this really horrible spot now because he's got to make a choice. Does he fight? Does he not? What does he do? Because as soon as he starts fighting with the guys in front, Nicolator, DC, Maya, Biker Pilot, Waneki and Urko are all going to be closing in on him. Squilliam, fastest lap of the race. I do want to have a look back at the start and see how Squilliam managed to weave his way through all of that drama, but we will catch that very, very shortly after Black Bob gets a run down into turn 5, as does Jace Meyer.
Yeah, I think as well at this point for Wallace, again, it comes back to that, throw that ego out the window, work together with those cars ahead of you and fight the good fight in the end. You're 5 minutes into this race. There's no point fighting for it at the moment. The checker flag's not flying for another half an hour, so you might as well work with them, try and stick with them, try and let them drag you forward. And for Meyer and DC, well, there may need to be a similar mentality between them, because the more these guys fight, they're then going to lose the positioning to Nicolator and Wallace and co ahead. And they're also going to let rubber band those cars that are in behind them further and further up towards them and into this battle.
Yep, and that's exactly what's happening. You see Biker Pilot, you see Jason Vanecki, you see all of these cars now in shot. Urko's closing in at the same time. Squilliam, however, is closing in on Logan McKenzie. I do want to pick up and see how Squilliam all of a sudden managed to make his way through. He is there at the moment in that number 1 car. You can see the start from some of the others in front. They were like 3 wide going into turn number 1, which was absolutely insane. He's on that inside line now. There's the incident. Okay, so he completely missed the incident and took the inside line and then manages to get up to second by the time they get to turn 5. So great run from Squilliam there. And I think that's the thing. If you're on that inside line, you kind of had a rough idea something was going to happen on that outside. So Squilliam did the only thing he knew what to do, and that was tuck up on the inside and try to avoid as much as possible. But Squilliam's closed into the back of McKenzie. Notovin is also there with Bozak. I expect them guys not to fight. But DC, however, Biker Pilot and Jace Meyer scrapping it out side by side into 5.
Yeah, they do not want to give any of these positions up in the midfield. These could be crucial points later in the season. If you can get these consistent top 10s or even up towards the top 5, well, they are going to make or break your season. They're going to make the difference when it comes down to either the minors or even a possible podium finish in the championship standings at the end of the season. So these guys fighting for this spot now, well, you might think, well, are they ever really going to have an opportunity at the podium? Well, if you think about it, anyone can get caught up in anything at any week.
Oh,
and getting these solid chunk of points with DC, catches the curb, and it's a massive moment for Wuanake once again, who goes flying. I hope he bought his tickets and his passport, James, because he has been sent to the moon from this one.
He could just not catch a break.
No.
Bang, up he goes, over he goes, round he goes, bounces he goes, and we're still going. Oh, Adam. Where are we?
I didn't know the. I think we're on the tie barrier. I didn't know the international high jump championships were taking place in Brazil this week, James. But I think Wuanake might have thought so, but that's unfortunately. And for him, he hasn't really. That's not been a good night for him. But someone who has had a good night is Squilliam, who has now pole vaulted his way back up into the lead here tonight. He won race number 1, but McKenzie is not going to let this go without a fight. As Squilliam tucks back in front. So maybe now he's going to wait. He'll be patient, try and hang with Squilliam. Let him build the gap back to Bozak, which is already 3.8 seconds. But again, throwing that ego out, solidifying some solid points. If he feels that he can't fight for the win right now, he'll try and keep himself in this position, because he very well could have an opportunity later in the race to fight Squilliam. But Squilliam could also, suffer from one of those unfortunate internet disconnections that then takes him out of the lead. And all of a sudden, McKenzie is in the hot seat to take a win.
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised that when they were coming down 5, although Squilliam had cleared him, McKenzie didn't tuck back in. Just left him on that outside line, on that inside line. The only fear is now, if McKenzie has not got the pace, like there, he's just lost nearly a tenth and a half, he will lose Squilliam. and Squilliam will break the draft, and then he's gone. And then he's up the road. And then before you know it, McKenzie's fighting a fight where he can't actually get anywhere near him, and he's never going to be able to. But just keep an eye on the sector times coming through this lap now, and we'll see how they get on and where he's losing time, because at the moment Squilliam does look quick across the whole entire lap. So very, very tough. For McKenzie, I would have fought this tooth and nail. I think I would have scrapped like my life depended on it here, because I got a funny feeling if he doesn't, Squilliam's going to pull away from him.
But then the opposite end of that coin goes back to what we were talking about before with Wallace, Nodovan and Bozak. He doesn't want to battle this too hard, James, because the more these guys battle, the more those three cars, again, will rubber band onto the back of them, and all of a sudden it goes from being a one-on-one to a five-way battle, or realistically a three-on-two, since Bozak and Nodovan are teammates. So it's a real balancing act of deciding, do I battle this? If I do, how long am I going to battle it for? Because he does not want to give up that crucial 3-second gap that he has back to Bozak and co. He's giving up time in the first sector, is Squilliam to McKenzie, but it's the middle part of the circuit that Squilliam is getting that time game. You see that Sector 1 went to McKenzie, 2, 3, 4 has gone the way of Squilliam, and I suspect it's going to be the same for Sector 5. So for Squilliam, it's Sector 1 that he needs to work on. For the rest of the lap, well, he's absolutely coming up trumps.
Yeah, and this is the fear now. What was that? You are right with what you're saying. When they fight, they bring the people in behind, right? That's fair enough. But you're then making this a little bit more even for yourself. From Logan McKenzie's point of view, over that last lap, he's just extending that gap's gone out to over a second. Now, the draft is going to come effect here down the Red Riposta. It's going to pull him into Squilliam going into 5. But if he can't keep up through out of 5, same sector times as basically the last lap, if he can't keep up out of 5, which he doesn't seem to be able to, I would have fought it to hopefully bring them guys in, to hopefully give me back up with him. So, so Nodovan can have a go, Bozak can have a go, because I fear this time we're going to be out at 1.2, 1.3, and then that's it. It's game over. Squilliam's just got a free run. He could stop at the pits, pick up his grandma, chuck her in the car, go for a cruise around Interlagos. That's how it's going to be, because, as I said, we're now at 1.2. So much further, and that draft's going to be completely irrelevant for McKenzie.
I think one thing to remember, though, is the best times that McKenzie's set compared to Bozak, Nodovan and Wallace, he's actually lapping at their pace. These guys, they're not actually gaining anything on him. The last lap, Bozak gained about 0.5 of a second, but it didn't actually show up on the timing tower. He's 3.5 seconds away still off of the back of McKenzie. So the more that those guys fight him behind, the better this still will work out for McKenzie. P2 on the road is still a good position. That's up 2 spots from where he started the race. And he's actually then getting a solid chunk of points next to him. As I mentioned, 32 points for P2. For Bozak and Nodovan, as the race goes on and as it progresses, we may actually see them swapping and changing position throughout certain sectors. We may see Nodovan take the lead on some laps to give the toe to Bozak. That then also helps them save fuel and then actually changes up their strategy a little bit, which could then work in their favor in breaking down that 3.6 second gap up to McKenzie in P2. So he's given up a win, or the lead at least at this stage, and he's given up the opportunity to battle for that lead, but he has actually gained back on Squilliam through this first 2 sectors. He's now down to under a second. So if McKenzie can find some pace through 3, 4, and 5, he's not necessarily going to lose Squilliam just yet, and he's not going to drop too much pace to the guys in behind him who are trying to chase him down.
Yeah, I can see where you're going and your point. I'm just a bit fearful that he doesn't quite get hold of him. He's going to be in deep, deep trouble. And at the moment, he's being saved because he's just close enough coming out of Junção, where he is picking up a little bit more of the draft. So we'll have to see how they get on. Now, answers to question in YouTube chat, Mackenzie Rune. Squilliam did say tyres is hot out on the racetrack. He said he was trying to save tyres to make sure he was able to get to the end of the race. But at the end of the day, that was just in the 20-minute race. So for 40 minutes, I think tyres will become a factor. But how bad, I'm not entirely sure. and they will have to make a pit stop. They will have to go in. Pit window basically is from lap 2, because some of these have already been in, right the way through to the end. And I think that's going to be a big, massive factor. Can they hold on to these tyres on a very hot track? Now, I just checked a minute ago, it was like 39 degrees centigrade, which is quite hot, to be blatantly honest with you.
It's about 90 Fahrenheit, roughly, about 90 to 100 Fahrenheit.
Yeah,
so
hot.
I think that, you know, to answer the question of does tyre change get covered by fuel, it gets covered by fuel in these cars. So they could change tyres when they come in. Majority of the time they don't. When driving F3s or SFLs in leagues like this, especially for 40-minute races. But with such a hot track, and this track's a tyre killer, don't be surprised if some drivers do take tyres. I think for Squilliam at the front of the field, if he can build enough gap over the next 5 minutes before he gets halfway, he could reasonably come in and take tyres and then actually have an advantage throughout the rest of the race. For Mackenzie, I think he probably has to take tyres at some point. But again, that's going to be determined by what that gap is. He's lost nearly a second to Bozak in behind him now. So that's then going to, that might sway his decision as well. If those guys in behind him come in before him and he has a spotter that says, hey, these guys didn't take tyres, he may decide to take tyres and actually have the rubber advantage over them, which will then allow him to push harder throughout the race.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure where Pebble's going. And I'm also a little bit worried here that there is a car coming at him very, very quickly. And those did have, not long further after this, there was an incident for Kasuda. Did get a little bit of a wiggle on. Whereabouts did you have it, dear sir? Oh, into 1. You get on the gas too much? Yep.
Yeah. A little bit of a slide. Oh, he nearly caught it. Again, I think that comes down, he should have just lifted off.
Yeah, but he hit the dirt on the outside as well, which didn't make it easy.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that was all she wrote. But Nick is dropping back from Black Bob here. So we're going to have to see. But they are getting quite spread out. No Barself or McKinney for race number 2. They didn't take on to the grid. Everybody's getting above that second mark at the moment. So we're hoping pit stops come into it and they start closing back up. Otherwise, it's going to be a JPB podcast if they keep spreading out as they are at the moment.
Get ready to talk about the NHL more, James, and maybe even some Martinsville races as well. But what I think is actually becoming a tactic of this race is these drivers are probably trying to save some tyres, just trying to force their strategy out a little bit to go a bit further. So then when they do come in, if they do take that rubber, they can push on then to the end. So they might be just trying to save fuel tyres to maybe push all the way out to 25 minutes into this race. So then it's an even 15 to the end for their racing as well. Banana Sushi Chat, what's the I rating of the front runners? Just ask a point of reference. So ironically, Squilliam has a 2.6k I rating. Mackenzie's is 4.4. For Bozak, it's 2.5. Nodovan, 3.1. And then Black Bob Wallace is 3.6. So it's either Mackenzie's done a lot of open wheel racing and he's built up his I rating in the open wheeler to the point of 4.4k, or he hit 4.4k before the licenses were separated and his open wheel license may not be that. Same for Squilliam with 2.6, same for everyone else. So that's, very interesting, but it's a 2.1k strength of field. So relatively speaking, if this was in an official, it'd probably be
second.
Most series, yes, second. So
yeah. Second split, and I think some of the I think
some of the back markers are probably actually dragging it down a little bit.
Yeah, you might get top split, but everybody's above a K at the moment. The likes of Pebbles and Casada, I think they haven't done that 1350 drop yet. When you go from, I don't think they've gone out of it.
Claiming theirs has, but because they're still rookie licensed, it doesn't necessarily calculate it properly, I don't think. But
to be honest, mate, I don't even. I've been at this now for 3-4 years, and I still don't understand the I rating SRIL system. Still drives me absolutely bonkers when everybody asks me. All I turn around and say, don't crash for the corners and you'll get more SR. There you go. That's all it is.
If you want to gain I rating, finish higher than where your car number is. So if you're number 1 in the session, you've got to win. Otherwise, you're not going to go up I rating. You're actually going to drop. So that's pretty much how I look at it. But
go on, son.
Read the sporting code, James, apparently. I suppose that's for getting SR, maybe. Read the sporting code.
That's for people who read things you know, I get a shelf or a unit or that I bought or something that the missus has generally bought, and I don't even read the instructions. I look at the pictures and go, yeah, that's cool, that's easy, and off I go. So stop moaning about the sporting code. I've ticked I've acknowledged it. Do I?
Don't ask James to go on about blue flags.
No,
please.
because that is just I think, to be fair, I think Mackenzie's probably heard me going on about blue flags. To be fair, I've been with his series for the last 2 years. I think he probably has heard me talk about it, but I don't know. I think it's a complicated system. All I know is the more corners you do clean, the more SR you get, and if you're in 20th and you beat first number 1, the more IR you get. So there you go. That's about the basics.
Yeah. I think that's more or less what it comes down to. I just stick myself to special events. That's my plan. Although next season I do want to do a full season of an official series, in terms of I think it's the IMSA sports car endurance series, which happens like every 2 or 3 weeks on a Saturday for me during the day, just to get more LMP3 seat time leading up to the Raw again next year, because I want to go back to back, James. I want 2 wins from 2 for the Raw. And maybe you'll get 2 from 2 for Martinsville this year.
Yes. It is marked that I've got to do it. Got to go and defend my championship. Do you know, the weirdest thing about that is I didn't even get a certificate. Got it.
Didn't you? I got one for the Raw.
I cannot find it anywhere. If anybody
it'll
knows
be in your, I think it's in your account. We might be able to run through it afterwards, maybe later tonight when you're up for SRW later. We can run through it and find it for you, but
I didn't even get one. I'm gutted.
Well, we can make you one.
I want one. I was going to put it on my wall, like my major success in iRating. No, because when I go in there and go into certificates, because it's in your profile, it ain't there.
Wow.
It ain't. Oh, hold on. Oh, yes, it is. There? Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Hey, first place. Mind you, it was split 10, apparently.
I was bottom split of the Raw, trust me, because my I rating is not where it should be.
Oh, mate, that's going to have to be printed off and be stuck on the old wall.
Yeah, my first sports car road series rating is going to get printed off. That's for the Raw, so that'll get printed off for me. Never say the split.
Oh, I don't really care. Dude, literally, my I rating sucks.
A win's a win.
Yeah, a win's a win. I don't care where it is.
You beat 60 other people or however many other people were in the race. A win's a win.
I like to point out there was 34 people in the race. I started 34th, and I won, and I spent 4.5 hours in VR. So
yeah, I'll be honest. I started P2 in the Raw and I won.
It wasn't great an achievement, was it?
I shouldn't have been in that split, because I know what my I ratings should be. I've been unlucky in officials. I've been taken out by other people. And that then dropped my I rating heaps at a period. And I gave up on racing officials after that when it went underneath 1,000, where it should not be. I know where it should be, and I plan on getting back there one day. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But regardless, we are 22 minutes into this race. We've only had one major pit stop in that period, James, on lap 14 for Biker Pilot. So he's the only one of the real first later pit stoppers will claim. So that was only last lap. So we may very well see those front runners try and push this out, as I mentioned, to maybe 25 to 30 minutes if they can last that long on this tank, and then come in and then take those tyres so they have fresh rubber to the end and they don't have to save that rubber to the end either.
And the interesting thing for me would be what Beaver's going to do, right? Because he started at 11th, he has pitted. Mind you, it was only like 4.5 seconds, but he did pit back on lap 1. The question will be, if there's no restrictions on the fuel tank after they start, he could technically fill up till the end. Where how fast he will be, he ain't gonna be. But he will be able to get to the end.
How poor are these tyres at the end of the race as well, as Amerman and Yomega come into pit lane as well. So we're starting to get some big moves in terms of pit stops. So for Beaver, I think realistically, because it doesn't, I don't believe we get safety cars, James. You can correct me if I'm wrong.
No,
without safety cars, he has to kind of just bite the bullet at some point and come in and get tyres, because these things are going to be screaming after 40 minutes in such hot conditions at a track that already kills tyres even in the coolest of weather. So, do you determine, well, how much gap have I got? Can I risk taking the tyres? I mean, it's a relative maybe 10-second loss to come into pit lane. He might only end up back in P12 or maybe even P13 if he does that.
This is the thing now, right? There's obviously Biker Pilot has pitted. He's gone in behind Nick here. So Nick at the moment is doing a fairly decent job staying in front of the people he needs to. Yomega's having a right little ding-dong down here with DC. They've swapped places a couple of times, and now they're going at each other again further down. This is for 16th and 17th. This is the 15th and 16th, sorry. The closest battle on screen on the racetrack at the moment as we go into the last 15 minutes. Maya's in, CK's in. So it will be where is Beaver is going to go past them as well. So Nick Beaver may have pulled a little bit of a masterstroke on pitting on lap number 1.
He very well may have. And I think as well, if he's got good pace, I mean, he's running 28.4s. He ran his fastest lap of the race last lap, actually. So he could very well build up some gap, maybe come in around when the leaders do, just take some tyres and then push on. Because if he's got good pace, the car will be light enough at this point that he'll probably, it's what, 26-second travel, so he's losing about 20 seconds by coming into the pit lane. So that would drop him back to around about this battle, actually, just ahead of this battle. So he'd come out probably around about Amerman, who came in on lap 15 and was positioned in amongst the top 10. So Beaver, he wouldn't actually get that much of a net loss. Plus the fact that Eat My Dust came in on lap 1, he would be in a similar scenario as well.
Go on, son. He did make it through, CK, but Eat My Dust has also made it through because Maya got that a little bit wrong. Maya now with Biker Pilot. These 4 in between them. Pebbles had another crash. Kasuda's had another crash. We won't compound their misery anymore and showing it on the broadcast because they've done it quite a few times. So I'm sure there is a steep learning curve for Pebble and Kasuda as they carry on. But Wallace is in. Nicolator's in. Now keep the eye on Ninth. If Ninth goes past these... Oh, no, he's dived in pit lane, so he's not going to.
No, so he's not going for that. So Wallace, Nicolator, Schwab, and Beaver's come in. So Nick Beaver's come in for tyres, James.
Yeah.
This is going to be an interesting point now of where he comes out amongst the field and how he also actually ends up at the end of this race. So this is going to be an interesting development throughout. So for Beaver, and look at that, he's come out P13 on fresh rubber. Oh, he is going... I have a feeling, James, he's come out. He's not too far behind some other drivers. On that fresh rubber, he is now going to be able to push on to the end of this race and is not going to be at a disadvantage anymore for the final 14 or so minutes.
As long as he took fuel. I didn't see his car lift. Yeah, we're not sure.
Oh.
I think that's the negotiation, is whether or not he did, whether or not he didn't, in conjunction with others around him. His sector times are generally the same. Jace Meyer's got the highest one with the pit stops at the moment, 7.4 seconds. So it's whether or not Jace took tyres. But
that might actually be a tyre change. That one is 7 seconds. So, yeah.
Everybody else is around about 4, aren't they?
Yeah. So that's only fuel. So, yeah. So I know that, so these cars, it's about 7 to 8 seconds for tyres. The fuel gets done in that time as well. So anyone under 7 seconds probably hasn't taken tyres then at that point. So, yeah, so that's a good point, actually. Thank you for reminding me. My mistake. So for Maya, he will actually now have a slight benefit over some other cars. Yes, he has to let those tyres come up to temp. But once they're up to temp, we may actually see his lap time start to come down and he might actually be able to push forward a little bit as well. So watch the space in Meyer and see what happens to him. 3 to 4 seconds extra. It would be worth it if you've got that gap over someone. If you're Squilliam, for example, and you're 4.4 seconds ahead of Mackenzie, you might as well take tyres. Because you'll come out around him, but you'll have fresh rubber. So you might as well.
Yeah, Beaver's putting his degree deuce at the moment. That's Ryan Schwab in front of us. Is he going to be able to jump him going down into 5? At the moment, the red and white machine dives up the inside. He's going to have more grip going around that corner, as you can see there. For Ryan Schwab, off the side of the circuit, Beaver goes through, so it's how far up he's going to be able to get. Black Bob and Nicolator are close together. I have a funny feeling that 67 machine is a bat marker.
Oh, my God.
Which he is.
That's bongos. As the leaders come in, so Squilliam, Mackenzie, Bozak in. So let's keep an eye on Squilliam, see if he goes up on the jacks and how long this stop is for him. Because if he goes for 7 seconds, he's taking tyres. He's not gone up, so he's staying on the rubber that he's got, and he's exiting pit lane straight away. So Squilliam's not taking tyres. Neither is Mackenzie. Neither is Bozak. Does Urko take tyres when he stops in the box? And I think this actually shown Beaver has done well to maintain the tyres in this race further back, because he was cutting some pretty good lap times on this old rubber. He's doing very, very well. No tyres for Urko either, but a longer stop. So we're now just awaiting Nodovan to come in at the front of the field to take his stop this race as Beaver rockets up towards turn 1. And this battle's now started to condense, James. There is a back marker in this. But this... Oh, no, that's ruined it. That has absolutely ruined it for Nick Beaver. Well, to pardon the pun here, James, damn.
Yeah. I agree. How did he end up... Oh, the car has slided.
Yeah.
Yeah, Biker lost the rear on that. And unfortunately, all Beaver's hard work has just gone out the window. You can see he starts sliding there. He hits the brake. Whoa, no, he didn't.
No,
Did he
Beaver started
slide?
to get on the gas. He slid. So he started to slide. The rear end went. So he's tried to hold brakes to keep the car where it is. But
It literally
there's nowhere
stopped.
Beaver can go at that point. He cannot. Yeah, so he holds brakes. So rear's locked as he's held brakes to try and stop the slide, and that's made it worse.
Yeah, Notavin's in. How far up is Notavin going to be able to get? Is Squilliam? Yep, Squilliam's going to go through. McKinsey's going to go through. Bozak's going to go through. Notavin comes out still in 4th. Black Bob's well far behind him. So I think we could be looking at the order there. The Beaver's trying to take flight. He is. I agree. He
found a ramp.
Yep. And what's worse, he did so much good work for Nick Beaver.
He did.
He's
He
gutted.
looked after those tyres. He was in a positive position, and he had great pace. That's really, really unfortunate for him to have that happen. But, you know, it's round 1. There's a lot more rounds to go this season, James. A lot more opportunities for positive performances. Yeah, it's 1 out of how many? So, you know, he'll come back next week when we head into the first endurance round, and we'll try and get some good points for himself in the GTP.
Yeah, Eat Me Dust is coming out now with Amerman in front. DC's going to be coming around the corner. There is DC. Amerman, Eat My Dust, unfortunately, is, well, he's been in his own very dramatics here this evening, to be honest with you. Race 1 wasn't great, and he's down in 12th. Clearly done a problem.
Can we claim theatrics maybe for Eat My Dust? He's just a theatre person who's trying to give us something spectacular to watch, maybe, just to not rub the salt in the wounds so much for some drivers.
Yeah, let's go with that. Yeah,
We'll go with that.
He's doing it on purpose.
Yeah, he's just theatrical. He's dramatic. That's what it is. He wants to bring us the drive to survive mentality, you know, but he's not surviving at this point. He's P12 after getting involved in some incidents out on the road.
And that would be the first one right at the beginning. Yeah, so maybe that's what he's doing.
Maybe.
Who knows?
For Squilliam, though, he is only 9 or 8 minutes away from taking a second win on the trot tonight, getting maximum points next to his name. It'll be a maximum of 49 points out of round number 1 for him if he can claim this win. For Mackenzie, he looks to try and lock in 32 points in P2 as well. So those guys looking to get some fantastic points as well. Let's be clear, though, Season 1 of Drive to Survive, of course, Season 1. The best season of Drive to Survive. They only went downhill from there.
I haven't watched any of them. I have not. I couldn't even bring myself. I found more excitement watching the NASCAR one that come out for that 6 episodes or whatever it was.
Where was last year's? I was looking forward to it, and I've not seen it.
Not yet.
Where is it?
I don't know. I can't answer that question. But I enjoyed watching it. I've never, ever watched an episode of Drive to Survive because I just find F1 boring. It is boring, and they're all self-entitled, and I just sit back and think, I can't be bothered to watch this.
No,
I can't be
bothered to get up at 4 a.m. to watch a Grand Prix.
Nope. And especially when they're paid so much, and I'm having to pay for my family to go to Silverstone for the British Grand Prix for the Saturday and Sunday was going to cost me, camping, mind you, in a tent, was going to cost me nearly £3,500. That's just for tickets to go there for the weekend. That is a ridiculous amount of money.
Yeah, the Australian Grand Prix is just as bad. It's within the thousands.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
I'd rather go to, for the same amount of money, I'd rather go to the 3 Victorian rounds of supercars.
Yeah,
to be honest with
DC's going to have a go with Amerman once more into one.
Oh, no, he can't quite get the run.
Yeah, almost. Silverstone was the same, mate. That wasn't even a stadium seat. That was literally somewhere random. So let's see if DC can get the run this time. Coming out of center S is down. Nareda Raposta into 5. He's going to take that inside. Amerman's got a little bit shaky. There's marbles out there. There's curbs out there. They're going to have to keep going here, Hamish, because I can tell you what, Amerman's not giving this up.
He's not. And this is our closest battle on track. They are separated by around about 400ths of a second as they enter up in towards turn 7 and 8 and down through 9, as well as they... Well, DC just has to give in and sit in behind Amerman for the next few corners. Might try and set this up to get a run out of the final few corners up towards turn 1, but at the moment he's dropping pace in this middle section comparatively to Amerman ahead. So he's got the strength over him through probably sector 5 through sector 1 and 2, but as soon as they then get through 3 and 4, he's nowhere near him in terms of on-track pace around this Interlagos circuit as they run up through turn 12.
What did Omega get himself up to at the beginning? Did he was involved in that little bit of collision, wasn't he, I think? Yeah, he didn't have anywhere to go. He had to stop, then got spun round, unfortunately, for Omega. Like, how did he drop down so many places? And then I remembered he was there as well. I feel like that's so true to life too. F1 cars look effortless from my side of the TV. This is the thing. I think driving a car is when you've done the only way that you get better at something is by doing it every day. So if you drove this car every day for 5 hours, I would have hoped, as they go side by side into 5. Amerman's got that inside line now. DC's on the curb. Is he going to make it on the run up into Ferradura? No, I don't think so, because there's marbles out there, son. There's all the marbles. And again, Amerman takes the thing away. If you drive the car for 6 hours a day, by the end of the week, you should be half decent. By the end of the second week, you should be pretty decent. By the end of the third week, you should be good. And then it moves up. Oh, marbles. You're not going to make it.
Marbles, and that's grass, and that's fun for DC. Yeah, and did the smart thing, just pulled it off the track. Saw there was a little bit of gap in the relative, and just made the road a bit clearer for Omega there. So unfortunately for DC, he's just been caught out by those classic marbles out on track.
Mm-hmm.
And for Bozak and Nodovan, well, they are looking for some solid points as well. Nodovan, though, not the best race for him in race 2. He hasn't gotten back up to the heights of race 1 in P2 on the road. But for Mackenzie, he has bettered his run from race number 1, where he was in P3 for race 1. And now currently sits P2 for race 2. So he should be, relatively speaking, P2 in the championship leading into next week's endurance race.
Yeah, they should be as well. I think the thing is what they're doing this season is they're keeping the sprint and endurance separate. So you'll have the sprint championship and then the endurance championship. So at the moment, Squillian will lead the sprint and McKinsey will lead the endurance. And then next week, it may swap on its head because the GTP, it might be that Squillian wins the opening round, or not of him wins the opening round and Squillian gets second. So that would be the endurance. So there'll be 2 separate championships as the season goes on. But this is where you're talking about the whole situation with practice. You know, if you're practicing in the same, it's like footballers. I say they work hard. They probably might work hard in training, but that's about it. But they do it every day. They do it every day. Hockey players do it every day. Ice hockey do it every day. American footballs do it every day. They might get 2 days off a week. But they're doing it every single day for a period of time. So if you did something like driving an F1 car, for instance, every single day, in theory, you should get pretty good at it by the end of the year.
Not just driving it every day, though, but actually then comparing data, running through different ways that you can approach certain sectors or certain corners a little bit differently to gain that slight bit of pace, because doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, it's, you know, classified as insanity, you know, madness. But doing it and actually comparing and self-reflecting and trying to improve of how you're driving, that's when you get better. And applying those changes is what then helps you get better as well. But also practicing and learning those new tactics or learning that new driving style, that's where you'll then start to improve as well. Hey, I get up early to watch IMSA too because IMSA is fantastic. I love IMSA. I think it is arguably, it's probably my favorite racing series in the world at the moment is IMSA. It's surpassed the Australian supercars for me. I still like watching supercars majority of the year, but IMSA I'm there for it nearly every single week or every round that they run.
No. I don't find that fun. To be blatantly honest, because I think
it's not always a 24-hour, James. Come on, there's 2.4-hour Grand Prix.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I don't find it. I don't know. For a man that commentates on motorsport, who should be like, I love it all. Give me everything. No, don't. Just give me NASCAR.
I think I just love John Hindhaugh. I think I just love John Hindhaugh too much. I think that's what it is.
Yeah, just give me NASCAR, give me ovals, give me trucks, give me Xfinity. That would do.
IndyCar's great though as well. I do like IndyCar.
Yeah, that. Give me anything else other than that. But we're on the final lap of the race. Believe it or not, I think Squilliam should be the final lap.
Yeah, it is. How did race 2 somehow rocket by faster than race 1? I don't understand how time works sometimes, but for Squilliam, it has been domination all throughout the night. Won race 1 after starting on pole. Race 2 started in P8, has managed to get his way up into P1 on the road as he traverses around the final couple of corners. Just has to keep it clean in the womb mate's car, and he will look to take home maximum points in Brazil. A total of 49 points next to his name in the Sprint Series Championship standings. As he comes around the final corner for the final time, Squilliam will take the win at Interlagos and claim the lead of the championship leading into round 2. As Mackenzie comes home in P2, Bozak will lead his teammate Nodovan into P4. As Bozak comes home P3 for Nicolator and Wallace, their battle has been contested throughout the entire race. But Nicolator possibly needed one more lap to get it done as Wallace leads him up to the line for P5 and P6. With Urko and Meyer still battling further back, but there's still a heap of gap between them. So Urko should easily come across the line in P7. Meyer should come home in P8. And CK and Schwab should make up our top 10.
Yeah, they were the last ones over the line. Here they come now in front. Sector 9 there as well. Why not compromise and watch D24? No. Do you know what? I don't physically understand people who watch all of that.
I didn't watch the whole thing. I waited. So I was asleep. Obviously, it started at 5 a.m. I missed the start. I got up at 11 and then watched the rest of the race as much as I could throughout the day. There were certain things I had to do during the day, so I missed portions of the race. But I watched the end, and I didn't watch the end. I stayed up and then fell asleep with half an hour to go. So I actually missed the end of the race. So I had to watch it when I got up the next day. So I nearly got there in the end, but staying up till 5:30 was not on the cards that day, it seemed, as DC crosses the line for P14. I look forward to the 12-hour, though, for Sebring, because that'll be a little bit less strenuous. It's not quite as late. And I really enjoy the Grand Prix because they're shorter. So if I miss them, I can just get up and watch them during the day. The same thing as well for like the 6 hours and stuff like that for Watkins and Indianapolis and even Petit Le Mans later in the year. So that's what I really enjoy about it. And I just prefer IMSA over WEC for whatever reason. So a bit easier to watch as well.
Well, there we go. Race results on your screen.
So in this race, for race 2, Squilliam comes home in P1, making it 2 from 2 on the night, taking the round win next to his name and the championship lead as well. Logan McKenzie will come home P2 on the road in the feature to claim P2 in the championship. Bozak, Nodovan will make up your top 4 with Black Bob Wallace making up our top 5. With Nicolator, Urko, Meyer, Captain CK, Ryan Schwab for your top 10. Eat My Dust, Gavin Averman and Yamega for your top 13 with DC, Jason Wuanake and Biker Pilot for your top 16. With Pebble, Matthew, Kasuda and Bongos making up the last of our finishes, with Nick Beaver finishing the race on lap 19 for himself. Bar South 22, James McKinney now making the start of race number 2.
Yeah, they didn't on that one. We've got a couple of people waiting in the interview room. Who would you like to have a chat with first?
Let's start with Bozak since he was P3 on the road here in this race. Mr. Bozak or Miss Bozak, whichever one it is. With Mr. With Discord nicknames, sometimes it's tough to determine, but Worked together with your teammate Nodovan on the road here in race 2. Managed to get yourself a podium next to your name and some phenomenal points as well. How was that race for you across 40 minutes of Interlagos?
Oh, it was good. It was a little scary in the first turn after that crash, but we got through it just fine. I'm glad we got both of us in the top 5, so I couldn't be happier.
And then, of course, this track, a bit of a tyre killer at times. Were yourself and him contemplating taking a tyre change under the pit stop, or were you happy just to run on the same set for the whole race?
Oh, we were pretty confident on staying with the same tires.
And then looking at next week, we've got our first round of the Endurance Championship. Any thought process going into that one in the GTP car?
I enjoy the car, but I'm not fast with it, so we'll see what happens from there. I at the very least, I can be consistent with it, so I'm happy with staying it that way.
Well, that might be the tactic, staying consistent. We saw some chaos tonight in the F3s. I suspect there's going to be a lot more next week in the GTP, which is a whole different beast of car to tackle around a circuit. So best of luck for round 2 next week, round 1 of the Endurance Series. We look forward to seeing how you go. Congratulations on P2 here tonight.
P3? Wait, was it P2 or was it P3?
P3.
Oh, sorry, P3. Yeah, P3.
Okay,
sorry.
I was a bit confused. I was like, wait, hang on.
Congratulations on P3 tonight.
I had my hopes up too. I was like, man, you got a 10 seconds? What happened?
You come into the interview room, booth, mate. You gained a place. So there we go. Anyone you want to shout out to before you let you go?
I'd like to thank my teammate for keeping it together and keeping us together. And then, thanks for broadcasting the race.
So we'll catch up with you soon, man.
Yep.
Thanks, mate. All right, next up we have Logan McKenzie for P2 on the road this evening. Logan?
Whoa.
Okay, we'll come straight in with the soundboard.
Yes, I guess when you pull people in, it triggers that. Hey, guys.
Well, is that your entrance music, is it?
It sure is.
I respect it very highly. But P2 in this race, I believe you had P3 in race 1, if I'm not mistaken. So good solid chunk of points for you across the night at Interlagos.
Yeah, it was getting back up to speed with the car. I haven't driven the F3 in years, and really any open wheeler I'm not super familiar with. So Interlagos is a great track to pick it back up at. I think this is like the quintessential open wheeler track, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, both me and James are talking about it. We both came to the agreements that this track for F1 at least should either be the first round or the last round of the season, or any series of open wheelers. And I think it proved why it should be the opening or last round, because it can throw up so much chaos throughout the race, but also some great driving as well. We saw you lose the lead to Squilliam in the first couple of minutes. Were there any thoughts of trying to battle him a little bit more for P1, or were you happy just to consolidate P2 and try and keep your gap back to the imposing Bozak and Nodovan, who were trying to chase you down?
Yeah, since I'm not super used to like racing against people in the F3 cars yet, and I can see on the relative that he's going a half a second faster than me on some of these laps. He was pulling out at least half a second. So when he got to me, I tried to let him go, and then I actually got a little mad at him for not going faster. But I just didn't want him to lose the gap behind, because those are the guys I was worried about. I knew they were on my pace, and Squilliam just needed to drive his race, and we had separate goals.
Well, obviously next week, first round of the Endurance Series in the GTP cars. What are your thoughts going into that one? And are you a little bit more comfortable and experienced in the GTPs compared to the F3s as well?
Yeah, I don't have really any experience in the GTPs. It's about the same as these. I'm familiar with sports cars, drive a lot of touring car, but touring cars are slightly slower than GTPs, so it'll be interesting.
Well, we'll see how well it translates for you. Let us know anyone you wish to give a shout out to, any sponsors as well you want to shout out as well, Logan. And congratulations on your P2 here this evening in the feature race.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Shout out to my cats, Ridley, Suzuki, Indy. They're on the back of a couple of my cars. They add a couple horsepower.
Very good. Well, best of luck next time out on track. We look forward to seeing how you go. And thanks so much for coming and have a chat to us.
Thanks, guys.
Next up, we have our race winner in Squilliam. 2 from 2 for you. that is the championship lead next to your name as well. It appears that the F3 car is your wheelhouse and Interlagos is your wheelhouse as well. You tiptoed your way through turn one, avoided the contact at the start of the race, and then managed to fight your way further and further up towards Logan McKenzie, where then once you were past, you got to build up that 6-second lead. Squilliam, thoughts on 2 wins from 2 and how much more confidence does this give you now for the next sprint round that we'll have in a couple of weeks' time when we're back in the F3 cars once again?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely got a bit lucky on the start there to be able to hop right into third, thanks to unfortunately my teammate. But no, the pace is definitely there. It feels like, and it's still only the first race of the season, so I'm interested to see how other people start to grasp the car. Because a lot of these guys, including myself, we don't really touch this car all too much, such as kind of the way with the voting in the series and stuff works. But yeah, we'll see who kind of starts to come to terms with the car. There's definitely some other people that are fast that if they stay in the draft in those races, definitely could have passed me and given me a run for my money. So.
And then first round of the Endurance Series next week in the GTP car. Are you feeling as confident as what you were tonight throughout these 2 races, or have you not got much experience in the prototype as much as maybe the F3?
I have a lot of experience in the GTP car, but on the new tire model, I've been struggling a little bit with the massive amount of grip in the car. So we'll see how it goes. I'm hoping to still be, in the at least top 10, top 5 kind of area. But I'm trying to just go into it with no expectations, just because, I do the endurances in that car, so I'm kind of used to it. But again, the new tire model on it, I've kind of been struggling with. So try not to set any expectations, to just go in and enjoy it and learn it more.
What's the car preference for the GTP? Are you a Porsche driver, a Caddy, or maybe even the new Ferrari leading into next week?
Me and my teammates have become a bit of a fan of the BMW, actually. So that's what we'll be
Oh.
running. Used to be Porsche fans, but after the changes, it just kind of became a little too unwieldy for us. And the BMW feels nice and planted and a good all-around car. So it's definitely got some weaknesses compared to the other cars, and you don't see it like running in top split for some of these special events and stuff like that. But I don't think we're that high enough level here. So yeah, I think it'll be fun to drive.
Oh, well, very, very good. Thank you so much for coming over to chat to us once again. Let us know of anyone you wish to give a shout out to, any sponsors or any friends or family as well. And congratulations on not only leading the championship out of round 1, being the round winner of round 1, but also having 2 wins from 2 and getting maximum points next to your name.
Yeah, appreciate it. Shout out to all my friends. I've got a bunch of friends from the Atlanta area watching me, cheering me on like they usually do, and the same to my girlfriend. So thanks to them watching, and thanks to everybody who showed up tonight to kick off a new season. So.
Very good. Well, best of luck next week when we go racing in endurance machinery. We look forward to seeing how you go. And, well, who knows? Next time we're in the F3s, we'll see if you can get another win next to your name.
Yep, appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
There you go.
James, it's very interesting how the BMW has now resurfaced has had now a resurgence in the prototype field. It was once the only prototype in the GTP class, then it was nerfed when they introduced the Porsche Caddy and the Acura. And now it's resurged thanks to the new tire model as well. So it'll be interesting to see those car choices next week when we go endurance racing. But for Squilliam, he comes out of the race tonight with at least 50 points next to his name thanks to getting the pole earlier on. It'll then be dependent on if he got the fastest lap of the race in race 1 and race 2, if he gets those extra 2 points next to his name as well.
Yeah, I think they've got options all the way through, haven't they, here? So this is going to be a very, very interesting one as we go forward. We can have a look at the calendar for this season, of course. And we've obviously just finished round 1 at Interlagos. We've got Okayama next time out. Chicago 2023 Cup Circuit. Yowzers. And then
Don't laugh too hard, James.
Oh, mate, don't. Donington, Mazzano, Phillip Island, Hockenheim, and Alton Park. So, it's going to be very, very interesting this season, especially looking out for round 3, of course, on that one. But, yeah, I think this could be an interesting one. It'd be interesting to see which drivers are translating over to the endurance, whether or not they're all going to come over or whether or not only some are going to choose to do certain one.
Yeah, I think that's going to come down to how confident they are in the GTP. Maybe how I don't want to say idiotic because that sounds rude, but maybe how ambitious they are to drive the GTP as well. So that's going to be interesting of how that all works out for those drivers. But regardless, though, it's been a great night of racing here for the J2iCS F3 Sprint Championship. We'll be back next week with the Endurance Series once again. But thank you so much for watching us here on JP Broadcasting. A big shout out to the series sponsor, East Action Sports, as well, for supporting the series. But until then, I've been Hamish, joined by James Parfitt here for the first round of the season. We'll see you guys soon on another broadcast. But until then, stay safe, drive hard, and as always, bye for now.
Jungle.